So before we get to the vinyl and the CDs, I was doing this review. I was doing a review which was going to be in this slot. This isn't the review you were supposed to see. I was doing a piece of hardware, a turntable actually. So I did the review and I completed the review. There were some extra fiddly bits with the review. And what I and many other YouTubers try to do is that we try and push on. We try and improve the channel, the look of the videos, the production values. Some of these things are not noticeable to you as such, they're not obvious, but they help smooth the way, or they might be obvious in terms of what you're seeing and how you're seeing it. So that's what was going to happen with this turntable review. And I completed the review and the video, and I turned to use this gizmo that would be required. And I suddenly thought to myself, hang on, I don't have a gizmo. And then I thought, I can't do the video without this gizmo. So I need to go and buy a gizmo. So I have. I've bought a gizmo. But it won't be here straight away, as these things turn out. They never are here when you really need them, are they? They don't arrive as quickly as you might expect. That particular review and the review in question, just let me tell you now, is a very nice turntable. It's the Vatia DG1, which is this, and very nice that looks too, I'm sure you'll agree. It's different, isn't it? So that's the review I have done. That's in the can, except for the gizmo. So hopefully you'll see that on Tuesday. Once I'd done that, I thought, as you do, what do I do now? So what you've got instead is a review of a bunch of CDs and vinyl, but don't think it's a make do or a make wait. Oh no, there's some really good stuff here, high quality issues, which I'm sure you'll love. Just to shake things up just a tad, I'm going to start with CDs, and this release, a box set in a clamshell box from Purple Records by Mr. Glenn Hughes. This is the Bootleg Box Volume 3, 1995 to 2010. Presented, as I say, in a clamshell box with a suitably distressed, makeshift, slightly edgy and street box art. The contents feature 6 CDs of musical ditties, plus a fold-out booklet sheet that serves as a poster on one side and a tracklist catalogue on the flip. The CDs themselves reveal a rather disparate spread of contents. What I mean by that is, you see the title of this box set and you immediately imagine, or at least I do, an even spread of concerts ranging over that time period, to rest gently upon 2010 after an exhausting build-up. Not so, in fact. What you have here is Hughes showing us how darn busy he was in 1995. Then he apparently collapsed into bed in time for Christmas of 1995 and didn't wake up, Sleeping Beauty-like, until 2008, whereupon he dived back into gigging, spreading that energy to 2010, whereupon he rested once more in godlike fashion presumably, and saw that it was good. Specifically, CD1 and CD2 features a 1995 show to support his then latest album called Feel, plus the previous years from now on at the Wolfram Hall in Wolverhampton on the 17th of November 1995. They include solo offerings such as Big Time and The Liar, plus trapeze songs Coast to Coast and Way Back to the Bone. The following day, supposedly full of energy and life, Hughes was back, but this time in the LA2 in London, with a similar list of songs from his solo years, Trapeze and Deep Purple. Esquires in Bedford on the 3rd of May 2008 occupies CD4, and that includes a similar mix plus a rare airing of his debut solo single I Found a Woman and the Moody Blues Nights in White Satin. The final 2 discs feature a show recorded at the Spring and Air Break, Belfast on the 9th of October 2010. That's CD5 and CD6. Offering great value plus lots of high energy performances from our Glenn and fair master quality, This is a valuable archive document on the Glenn Hughes career. On Hail Mary Records, oh yes, this is Mary Coughlan and Life Stories. Galway in Ireland saw the birth of our Mary in 1956, and then it went downhill from there really. Drugs and alcohol didn't help, and the lady found herself in a mental hospital. Then she tootled off to London and checked into a hippie squat at 19 years of age, waitressing here, sweeping streets there. She turned to singing after meeting, of all people, Dutch music legend Erik Visser. Visser had spent the 60s and 70s playing in psychedelic rock and rock bands. Then he moved to Ireland, hooked up with indigenous musicians, married an Irish lady and started a family. Visser also remained musically active in Ireland, and after meeting Coughlan, he co-wrote, arranged and produced her 1985 debut album Tired and Emotional, which was, it has to be said, a roaring success. It went platinum in '86. Visser's collaboration with Mary Coughlan resulted in 8 albums: Under the Influence in '87, Sentimental Killer in '92, Love for Sale in '93, Live in Galway in '95, After the Fall in '97, and The House of Ill Repute in 2008. This new album has been beautifully mastered and bathes in a delicate wash of space and air that tracks reverb from the vocal all the way down to cymbal taps. In bass terms, there's an organic confidence here and a tonal balance that bookends the sound nicely with a resonant piano. I've heard Coughlan's voice described as smoky, but it isn't. It really isn't. That's a lazy label, I would say. Instead, Coughlan has a voice chiselled by years of experiences. It emerges through a brain filter of memories. What you're hearing here is a series of conclusions. That is, she's settled into a way of living. I may have this horribly wrong, I know, but Coughlan sounds like she's come to terms with herself and she's done. And from that position, she's now telling her story from that point onwards. So her lyrics are delivered with great weight and a knowledge of what goes on out there. Her music is full of lazy, slurring swing, combined with blues, folk lullabies, as well as an irreverence of independence. Her voice is heavy with time. Another box set. This is Bill Wyman's Blues Odyssey from the Öyster label. This CD box set is backwards in terms of how it emerged and where it came from. That is, this was a TV and DVD based project. The CDs and the music within emerged from that. As Wyman himself said, quote, "When I first began my Blues Odyssey project, I concentrated on making a television series that would introduce people to the blues. This soon expanded to include a book, and it seemed only natural to produce this CD to accompany both the book and the TV shows." End quote. So it comes as no surprise then that the DVD itself has been included inside the clamshell box set, along with 2 CDs packed with a compilation of blues songs and artists, and a glossy booklet detailing the same. The DVD includes interviews with the likes of B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, Mick Fleetwood, Mike Love, Albert Lee, and also related figures like Rosetta Patton, Charlie's daughter, and Big Bill Morganfield, the son of Muddy Waters. The CDs are packed with legendary figures too, but the 46 tracks included in total here don't just feature the more generally well-known names. There's Bumblebee Slim's Rambling with That Woman, Casey Bill Weldon's WPA Blues, and Cow Cow Davenport's Railroad Blues. The accompanying booklet does a good job in squeezing as much essential information into that limited page count as possible. For example, let's take Mr. Davenport here, and we find that he was the first piano blues player to achieve a breakthrough in his own right. Accompanying Dora Carr back in 1924, it was then that he called himself Charles. It was only later when the train-infused song Cow Cow Blues gave him his nickname. As you might expect, dynamic reach on a lot of these tracks is somewhat limited, along with a bright edge to the presentation. Saying that though, Öyster has done a fine job to round off the aggressive nature of much of this work to present a fine archival lineup. Next we have, you guessed it, another box set, this time from the Pink Fairies and Friends from Floating World, and rather shiny it is in a jewel case. Last year the Floating World label reissued 3 albums from the band that were originally released on Universal. This 3D collection appears in a jewel case, and I have to say the use of multi-hinged jewel case variants is slowly becoming a rare occurrence nowadays. It has to be said. The record label has worked with Fairies guitarist Andy Coghlan, ex-Warsaw Pact and Tans the Youth, who joined the Fairies for their pleasantly monikered 1987 album Kill 'Em and Eat 'Em. Actually, it's Coghlan who is the focus of this release. The entire set revolves around the man. This is why the "and Friends" part of the title exists. The Fairies, in fact, are only a part of this box set story. Andy Coghlan and Friends would have been more honest, though possibly less saleable, title. This compilation of 3 albums includes the live recording Pink Fairies Chinese Cowboys that was taken from 2 dates on their 1987 tour. The first from Leeds and the other at Long Marston Speedway. The sound is typically bright and thin in the lower frequencies. A good quality bootleg, you might say, full of high energy rock. Next in line, and similar in musical style, is Dr. Crow by the Pink Fairies forerunner, The Deviants, featuring Mick Farren and Andy Coghlan. That's not all the dudes in this band though. Witness the talents of Blodwyn Pig's Jack Lancaster and Phil Taylor from Motorhead, plus members of Wayne Kramer's band. The sound is edgy with rather clinical mids and jabbing bass. And finally, Andy Coghlan's latest solo outing, Pick Up the Phone America, which features some fine solo lead guitar work and has a slightly new wave crunch. Sound is slightly more open around the soundstage, but also retains that clinical approach. Check out the included glossy booklet penned by Alan Robinson, who does his usual fine job on providing a blend of information and entertainment. From the US label Third Man, we have a band called the Pathetx and an album called 1981, a Detroit punk band. The Pathetx were a 5-piece bundle of energy consisting of Mark Levitt on vocals, Greg Kutcher on lead guitar, who was joined by Tom McHenry on rhythm, joining after being discovered at a local community college, and Mick Goldwater on bass, aka Filthy Mick Nasty, who tried out for the band at a local music store. Drums were handled by the late Ted Meek, or Iggy Moon as he's known, found via a local listing service of the Detroit News. So then you've got a punk come hardcore band, and they stand there and they play Climb Every Mountain from The Sound of Music. Oh yes, and let's not forget It's Fun to Be Clean by the Human Beings. Neither of which are on this Third Man LP release, I'm afraid to say. In fact, if you take a look at Discogs, you won't find much else. Well, anything else. This is the first release by the band and spans a whopping great 18 minutes. That's 18. Oh, and 16 seconds. Seconds really count on an 18-minute album, let me tell you. So you have to ask, why? Because a multi-track tape recording was made at the Real Sound studio in late 1981, which was promptly lost. Band manager Steve Shaw did have a master in his possession for over 3 decades, which is why, after more than 38 years, this LP has finally hit the shelves. The label call this music, quote, fast and unhinged, unquote, and I wouldn't disagree. There's a distinct, classic 3-chord late 70s punk attitude and presentation here, with the uncontrolled, controlled vocals ranging across the scale, backed by a wall of guitar sound. This is an album crammed with energy, so that 18 minutes or so will seem like a lot longer, to be frank. The guys packed in about 48 hours worth of energy and passion into this brief time. From the UK's Demon label, we have Feel No Fret from the Average White Band. This is an interesting album, but maybe not for the reason you expect. Why? Well, because it represented the band's decline after many years of success at the Atlantic label. For the first 8 or so albums, despite a hiccup here and there, the band persisted in producing quality music. This is one of the very few white bands of the time that produced quality funk. Well received by all too. Funk that seemingly had absolutely nothing to do with their Scottish roots. Music that seemed at odds with the same, in fact. Alan Gorry on bass and vocals, teamed up with guitarists Hamish Stewart and Onnie McIntyre, plus the sax of Malcolm Duncan, Roger Ball on keys and sax, and drummer Robbie McIntosh. Once the Arif Mardin produced instrumental Pick Up the Pieces hit the public, the band was secured in place and received many plaudits and success. Another top 10 hit followed in 1975 via the title track from the album Cut the Cake, amongst other well-received singles, with their final top 40 hit being the single Queen of My Soul. And then this one appeared in 1979. It wasn't well received by the public, at least compared to earlier releases, and failed to gain the usual gold or better sales status. It was also the first album that was not produced by the genius of Arif Mardin. This self-produced outing is good, don't get me wrong. There's plenty to like here. The issue is that the band play within themselves. They make do. They're comfortable. They're in a rut. For some fans, of course, that rut will be good enough. This reissue is rather nice from the UK audiophile outfit Demon. Presented in a gatefold sleeve, the vinyl has been pressed upon clear wax. Blue Oyster Cult's Fire of the Unknown Origin now from Music on Vinyl. Ah, rock bands with umlets, eh? Someone could write a book on that phenomenon alone. You could call this LP release a turning point, a girding of the loins, an album where the band woke up from their reverie, pulled themselves together, raised their socks to acceptable levels, dug deep into the bucket of creativity, pulled out a finger, made, well, you get the idea. This one was released in 1981. Before its release, fans had clamped their eyes and ears on 2 earlier releases of contrasting quality. In 1979, Mirrors produced chin scratching and lots of while Cultosaurus erectus from 1980 certainly had its fans, but the catcalls could still be heard from some. This release seemed to lift the group back on its pedestal. Maybe the producer Sandy Pearlman, Richard Meltzer and Patti Smith, who all penned lyrics, helped to strengthen the bedrock of the LP, while science fiction writer Michael Moorcock also assisted. You could say that the core songwriting quality was the reason this LP found success. Tracks like Heavy Metal, The Black and the Silver, Burning for You, which became a top 40 hit, and the wonderfully named Joan Crawford were just some of the highlights. The keyboard work here was also magnificent, while the backup guitars added strength and a sense of forward motion to the entire album. The LP, featuring Eric Bloom on vocals, Albert Bouchard on drums, Joe Bouchard on bass, Alan Lanier on keys, Buck Dharma on guitar, remains a little cracker and should be sought out by both fans and those looking to investigate Blue Oyster Cult's work. This well-mastered release appears on Fetching Blue vinyl with a paper insert showing sleeve art of other Blue Oyster Cult releases and credit information. And finally, Avishai Cohen's Big Vicious on ECM, all the way from Israel. Isn't that the sort of thing they say when introducing an artist on stage? Well, Cohen is certainly that, and this is his 4th outing for the German label. The band he offers for your entertainment here is actually one that has its roots in 2013 because they met then back in Israel. So I'm talking about Uzi Ramirez on guitar and Jonathan Albalak on electric bass. There are drummers, plural. They are Aviv Cohen and Ziv Ravitz. Ravitz also dabbles in sampling. The music here is nicely accessible, but don't let that term put you off if you're looking for complex, supremely played and arranged jazz. There's that too. What Cohen does here is to combine both complexity and skill and forge that lot into a palatable dish. Hence, even music fans who don't normally like jazz will find something of interest here. The rhythmic nature of a track like Teardrop means that it's easy for the ear to become lost in the sweep and the ambience of the arrangement. The purity of the Cohen trumpet flies across the soundstage with effortless ease, extends the range in musical and also dynamic terms, while minor chords add emotion and richness to the story. The track Honey Fountain is almost 2 tracks in one, where the backing band noodle away in a gentle jazz rock reverie, while Cohen hovers above them all in a trumpet-powered drone, flying smoothly over the music, observing rather than interfering. The band seemingly proceeding on their own course, while Cohen almost makes notes about the progress below. Thus, as ever, with any ECM release, this is a jazz album, but not one you will expect, and the music is all the better for it. And that's me done, folks. That's me done. Thank you very much for staying to the end. Thank you very much for your support. I appreciate all your help, all the comments, very welcome indeed, and your subscriptions and likes. Goes without saying, but I will say it anyway. Thank you very much. I do appreciate all the support. I will be back. I'll be back with my gizmo. I'll be back on Tuesday, hopefully. I have faith in the Postal Service, and I hope I will be back with that turntable, the Vitea DG1, on Tuesday. Check in then. Hope to have your company. Until then, bye bye for now.